Hey everybody, it's currently Thursday, February 17th. It is our year of 2011, and this is Day 9 Daily number 263. Yes, it is. In exciting news, this is the first ever stream on Justin TV. Let me rephrase that. This is the first ever Day 9 TV stream on Justin TV. Again, around Sunday, we just took a little bit of a poll of feedback from the audience. Based upon your feedback, this seems like the most recommended and desired course of action. So thank you very much for your input, fine viewers. There's a couple of things that need to be worked out, that are a couple of kinks. In particular, a lot of people may be experiencing lag while watching this live for the first time, experiencing some unusual stuttering. That's because I'm streaming at a higher quality than I was on Ustream. But fortunately, Justin TV has the little setting where you can break it down into the lower and lower qualities if you're watching live. I recommend doing that. A lot of people will be experiencing lag just because I'm streaming at a really high megabit upload. So unless your internet is correspondingly fast, it'll just feel and look laggy. So yeah. In other exciting news, there is no slow mode on the chat, so I'm looking over there and it's just flying up. So, I wonder how I'll be taking any questions from that. Who cares? That's 45 minutes from now, Day 9's problem. There, that's a great sentence. So yeah, a lot of you will be having a hard time reading and interacting, but that's fine because people just want to type. Yeah! That's because the IRC setting we're using is on QuakeNet, which does not have slow mode, which does not have chat channel overflows. So that means it's a little bit of a free-for-all today. Don't worry, mods. Be nice to everyone. Be very nice. I will be heading over to Germany starting on Sunday morning, so that means that there will be no live dailies for the next 2 weeks, but that is okay, because there will be a lot of stuff going up regardless, so you should be regularly checking day9tv.blip.tv or youtube.com/day9tv for all the appropriate updates, and also follow me on all those, so I have bigger subscriber numbers. Is there anything else noteworthy to announce today? I don't think so. No Fun Day Monday next week or the week after, and sadly, or the week after that, because again, I'm out of town for 2 weeks at the Intel Extreme Masters Championship event, so definitely tune into that. The second week I'm out, that is March 1st through 5th. You want to be watching, because I'll be doing the commentating and the talking. And again, shipping more content out to day9tv.blip.tv. Is there anything else noteworthy to announce? Other than all that jazz, I want to give big thanks to the admins who are all volunteer, who help out with everything, in particular Markio and Gamer, who really kind of have assisted me in this move over with the MIRC stuff. They're still doing all the good polling action and junk like that. So Marky, if you'd be so kind at some point in the future, if I could just get a lag check poll, the 1 if it is 1 if it's looking good, 0 if it's looking not so good. So that way we can get a good little setup. And also one of the non-admins, but of course Buddy's Oh Mine Gun Run for helping out with the move as well. And of course setting everything up. So once again, if you are experiencing lag, please make sure that you're trying out one of those 360 or 240p settings. So the topic of today is actually one that was developed while I was trying to test getting everything set up. There is a man out there, a man known only as the Kraken, as well as the Greg, as well as E.G. IdrA, as well as the man in the leather gracket. He is known for being extraordinarily clean and smooth with his timings. He's very, very good. In fact, I think a lot of people would argue that IdrA is one of those players who can potentially be trapped by some incorrect mindsets. You know, he's a star of the show Imbalanced, where he and Artosis talk about imbalance, and I can conceive that one would argue, like, hey, come on, IdrA, you shouldn't be obsessing so much about imbalance. You should be obsessing about... Ooh, I'm going to tell you these poll results in a second. You should be obsessing about how to improve, not about what the imbalance is. You should be obsessing about how to get ahead, right? However, what people do not give IdrA enough credit for, is how genius IdrA is at economy management. How absolutely genius he is at economy management. Has your pool ever finished and you have like 110 minerals? You can't quite make a queen. You kind of got to chill, and then you make the queen. And right when you make the queen, you maybe have some gas left over that you can't quite use. Or, right when you get 100 gas for your zergling speed, you're like at 50 minerals. You can't quite do it. IdrA is a genius at getting all those things to line up. Right when the pool finishes, 150 minerals ends up dropping back down. Right when he gets 100 gas is the exact time he gets 100 minerals going down. And people see that, steal that for their builds, because again, that can be used in like the first 4 minutes of the game, completely repeated, absolutely no issues whatsoever with executing that exactly every single time. But IdrA continues to be genius into like the 8, 9, 10, 11 minute mark with a lot of his timings. Very, very, very crisp, clean, smooth timings. I remember being in one state of the game and hearing IdrA say something like, someone's like, yeah, come on, it's not that much. It's only like 100, gas or something like that. He's like, yeah, but then I have 100 extra gas to be able to get this upgrade later, and that's why I'm better. Could have done without the "that's why I'm better" part, but it's actually kind of true. The fact that IdrA is able to pick out periods of time where things are not absolutely necessary, and he steals little bits of money from those and plants them in a little bit later. Just for little examples, let's say you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, so you make one extra spine crawler. If you didn't make that one extra spine crawler, you could get an upgrade for your Mutalisk. You could get a +1 attack upgrade just by not building that spine crawler. People like to think of an upgrade as a kind of a big decision, I will upgrade. I will, Protosses, you get a forge and then you get a +1 upgrade, or you get like a 6th gateway and you do a big push. These are trade-offs that you're thinking in your head. They feel like a really big deal. But when you say something like, yeah, I'll make an extra cannon, or yeah, I'll make an extra spine crawler, that doesn't feel like as big a deal, because, it assuages that fear that you have of the, oh, I think I'm going to die, and all that sort of good stuff. So this is one thing that I really, really admire quite a bit about IdrA. So we have 2 short games of his. Because they are replays that are on the internet, I sort of feel like he's probably going to end up losing, right? I haven't seen them, but my gut instinct is that people beat IdrA and went, yeah, I'm the best, and then uploaded it and was like, yeah, oh, getting all happy about it and that sort of jazz. That is not appropriate, I think, to really just go, yeah, take it, IdrA, and all that stuff. What we're going to be doing in these instead is pointing out a lot of the very, very good timings that IdrA has. And when you are someone who relies on good timings, you will have games that win and lose in different ways than your average person. Your average person would be saying something like, oh my gosh, tanks are coming. Maybe I need to get Unit X to be able to defend it. And they dump everything into Unit X. And it's all that feels like an intuitive choice, and maybe they end up losing later, and they're looking for more intuitive choices. Like, well, maybe I should have gotten Unit X, and then later when he started making Unit A, I should have gotten Unit Y, and all this jazz. But when you're a timing type player, you'll say something like, at 42 food, I begin making zerglings to defend against a potential 4 warp gate attack. But then what happens is someone does an ultra-fast 4 warp gate and attacks you, and you're at 36 food. So what does that mean? It means you have no zerglings at all, because 42 was the timing at which you began making them. So this means that you have a loss that looks dumb. It looks dumb. It looks like you are completely underprepared. And your lesser player will say, oh man, he should have just made zerglings. Doesn't he know that that sort of thing can happen? It's not that he thought about making zerglings and said, no, I don't want to make those, that's dumb. It's that he's focusing very hard on the timing of when he ends up making them. So a lot of these losses look dumb, and that honestly is a pretty good sign that you're on the right track. If you have really dumb feeling losses, that is an excellent sign that you are on the right track, that you're trying to rely on timings and thin defenses. Just a few final examples before we jump into this game. If you are the sort of player who was going for a fast Banshee and had some Marines at the front to defend, and suddenly an Immortal and a bunch of Stalkers came up and broke down your front and just killed you, and then a Banshee popped out, right? One of those sort of things. That is a good way to lose. That is a good way to lose. It looks really dumb. But then you just need to say to yourself, I guess I need to bolster that defense a little bit. I need to adjust my timing a little bit. And then maybe in the next game, the same thing happens. Another dumb loss. Okay, you need to adjust it a little bit more, a little bit more. And suddenly, you barely hold it off. Boom, your Banshee pops out and is able to do huge amounts of damage because you're relying on thin timings. You're not saying something like, oop, lost to an Immortal push. I guess I need to get a second barracks and do a whole lot of extra stuff. You're not trying to talk about what new things to build. You're trying to think about how to time what you were going to do anyways. So, let's go ahead and bounce into this first game. And I'd like to just give a special extra congratulations that it is 97% lag-free based upon the voting. 97% lag-free. Oh, how exciting that is. So let's go ahead and go into the IdrA cam. He is playing against Zerg King, who, as you will note, is playing Zerg. Very good. Let's go back to the IdrA cam. Let's come to the production tab. IdrA, you will start to see, does a lot of things like scroll the screen away. No, very bad IdrA. But you'll start to see a lot of these kinds of things where, notice that the rally point for the hatch sometimes doesn't line up with the rally point for the larva. We're going to see this in a moment, and I think this is something very, very key to pick up on. So we see that, there's a rally point set here, but look at this Overlord and this drone. There's an Overlord egg somewhere there. There it is, heading off to this way. But we also have the drone having its own little rally point. This is the first thing that I want to note. Notice these eggs. Look at them. These two eggs being sent to different mineral patches. Look at them. These are all eggs individually sent to different mineral patches. I'm sure a lot of you do this, but I'm sure a lot of you don't do this. Little tiny things that help improve your timing. These are the sorts of things we're going to really drill today. We're going to be watching a Zerg vs. Zerg and a Zerg vs. Protoss of our friend IdrA and really studying some of his good timings. So he sees this. Almost always, you should be able to determine your opponent's position reasonably accurately based upon the timing that drones end up arriving. As we can see, I mean, this is pretty dang close, right? These sorts of things. But a lot of people will see the drone and they won't really make the leap, right? A drone that scouts them at the 1 minute and 40-second mark feels the same as a drone that scouts them at the 2 minute and 40-second mark. They just think, oh, he's scouting me. But it's the timing helps reveal the location. Kind of an obvious example, but still one that does deserve a little bit of description, right? A little bit of just highlighting, I guess I would say. So let's go back to the IdrA cam. So we continue to see drones getting made, being individually rallied. We see the spawning pool go down. I always like to focus on building placement if I can, but I'm probably not going to be worrying too much about that. Here's the very, very standard gas and then pool build, but I want to back up just a moment to watch how this geyser got finished. Right when this finished, we see that. Look at these 3 drones that got grabbed, right? Look at these 3 drones. Let's see if we can find them. I still have them selected. Let's see if we can get them right as they move out. We want to see which drones he ends up choosing. We're going to see that they're a pretty wise choice of drones to end up grabbing. They're drones that just ended up doing their return, and we see them coming right on out. A lot of people will end up sort of having one a little early, have it poaching out a little bit. And if you can get really, really smooth with all these little tiny things, you'll gain a second here, a second there, gain 5, 10 seconds, then 15 seconds. Then over time, you're doing things a full minute earlier with extra minerals and extra gas. And it's kind of incredible the effect that can end up popping out. So there's our Overlord that's coming up. We're noticing little things like the hooking pattern that IdrA is doing with both of these Overlords. He's very, very meticulous with where he ends up sending these Overlords. Notice that this one Overlord can see everything from this ridge and above and all the way to the edge over here. The only way of Zerglings could get up here are to move along this way. This Overlord could actually be moving along this path right here that my mouse is dragging along, and it would result in a different kind of scout path. I know that sounds obvious, but a lot of people just box the Overlord and they say click here, and then they don't think about its purpose enough. Notice that I would actually call this a surprising blunder by IdrA to have that extra 4 hanging out at the edge. That extra 4 minerals. A very surprising little blunder. Because very ordinarily, IdrA does not have that little extra 4 minerals. And already we're beginning to see something quite interesting. IdrA is not getting a queen. He is getting a very early hatchery right after he makes his zerglings. He got the zergling speed, he got the lings out, but he skipped the queen. And I want to go to the everyone cam because it looks like that. Yeah, look, Zerg King just finished his pool, is getting zerglings, obviously getting the queens, but IdrA going to be backing off on that a little bit. So this is a very, very unique little build. So this is where we want to begin looking at our timings to see what we can steal. Very cool. So right as he's going to get 150 minerals, I'm looking to see if that queen ends up popping out. Ends up popping out a little bit late, but that's something that needs to have a little bit tighter focus on it. Here's Zerg King, trying to do a little bit of defense. And we see IdrA beginning to add on a bunch of Zerglings and an Overlord. And a big thing that I'm going to begin asking myself is, when do guys go back into this gas? And in particular, when does this gas geyser get taken and these gas geysers get taken? When does that happen? When does that happen? So there is, now we see a little bit of a skirmish. We see the speed is rapidly en route, but I want to pull back and watch what happens back in this base. There's the Overlord popping out right now. Oh, second queen popping out as well. Second queen queued up right before that first queen ends up finishing. Notice that it's pretty darn close to the end, and that's a pretty key observation to make. Could be a little closer. I'll give IdrA the benefit of the doubt because he's doing this little micro fiesta over here. They're quite close in terms of timing. So we see the Overlord just hatched. Queen now moving out. That looked like an Overlord popping out around 22. That's good. I want to be aware of that. And now we're starting to see some drones get made. Now, I want you to just listen to what I heard. Just listen to this really fast. Oh. It's going to be coming. It's going to be coming. Yeah, yeah. Do it. Very good, right? That's kind of an interesting little signal to note. A lot of people don't use the audio clues in StarCraft enough. You can just listen really, really carefully when you're playing and start to get good senses of timing and triggers. You always hear me say things like, "Oh yeah, look in the bottom left corner for this timing. You can look in the top right corner for your food to help your timing." But why not just listen to when that lady's like, "Metamorphosis complete," and then you can say to yourself, "Oh, now it's a time to do blank." You don't even have to have the trigger in your head. You can just have it in your ears. And we're seeing that right around the time this completes, IdrA begins returning back to drone production. So, a lot of good aggression going on right now. A lot of good sort of funneling down and forcing. Okay, cool. All right. This is going to be a very exciting moment. This is going to be a very exciting moment because we're seeing IdrA begin to throw guys back into the gas, and we want to see how that ends up looking and feeling. Let me just note one thing that I call the invisible deviation, right, or what you don't see. These ended up being very close positions, and IdrA did this speed zergling build and early expand. Often people will see IdrA do this build and say, okay, I want to do that build, and they'll just do it. However, remember at 1 minute and 41 seconds when Sen's drone popped up into IdrA's main, and we went, oh, I guess that we know our opponent is in an extremely close position. That could have been the key influencing factor for IdrA to choose this build. That could have been the key choice to do this opening. But either way, we're going to see guys pop back in the gas. Now, I think many people at this juncture would be feeling a little uncomfortable with having guys not in gas. We see it is about at 30 food. I'll go ahead and be real specific and say 5 minutes and 20 seconds. With this build, we put guys back into gas. 5 minutes and 20 seconds. There's the Roach Warren going down. Okay, cool. We put guys back in gas and take a Roach Warren when we're at 5 minutes and 22 seconds. Here's the mystery. Here's the mystery that's going to mess with a lot of people's heads. Right around... Let's pull back here. Right around this moment. Right around here. A lot of talk in the Day 9 Daily 252, as well as in the following Newbie Tuesdays, was all about the this mineral count and sort of timing that and getting that to a reasonable and solid timing. So that way, you know, we kept this money low and we were actively doing stuff. A lot of people would say, okay, I just hit over 150, make the Roach Warren, and now let me immediately put guys into gas because I can begin to afford it. But this is what makes IdrA very, very good, is that he has an excellent sense of how these timings end up working. I almost always argue that if you have extra money in the bank, there should be some reason it's getting high because you're going to be spending it. Like, if it gets to 300, it could be because you're going to make a hatchery or something like that. And, oh, we see a Roach Warren going down. Well, I'm not so sure our money, is that actually accurate? Well, you know what? Look at this. All these larvae just popped out, and there he is. Bam. Down at 0 again. Now, I want you just to realize how kick-ass that was, right? How excitingly kick-ass that was. Protoss and Terran have things a little easier because when an SCV finishes, you can build one extra SCV. And when that finishes, you may now build one more SCV. Likewise, when your Marine finishes, you may build one more Marine. Things happen one at a time, and then they finish, and you sort of add on more things, and they finish, and you add on more. Zerg, you're kind of chilling. You can add on drone. The larva pops off. Now I can build 8 more units because I have 2 hatches. This can make things a little bit weird, and IdrA is a master at these subtle timings that are built around when these larvae pop off. This is such a big damn deal that I'm rewinding it once again. This is the thing that you need to be very sensitive to, thinking of the times when your larva ends up popping off. If we did end up throwing guys into gas and building this Roach Warren a little earlier, what would happen? It would be 3 drones not mining minerals because they're in gas, and 1 drone building a Roach Warren. Again, 4 drones not mining minerals if we rushed to build this Roach Warren and put guys in gas. But if we waited till 5 minutes and 20 seconds to put guys back in gas and then to put things in, watch the miracle of life that occurs. Pop, 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 pops right off, and look at all the money. Look at all the money very low in unison. The gas and the money are together very, very low. So we do see a counterattack coming up. IdrA is going to be pulling things back a little bit. There's the Queen making her way back home to try to not die. I would label this as a little bit of a miss blunder here by IdrA. Oh, no, sorry. I guess I'm yellow-green colorblind. Looks like IdrA had plenty. Probably could have avoided losing that Queen, but that's okay. That is okay. So we're seeing, in general, the money is quite low. Now, I want to note how good this timing could have potentially been, right? How good this timing could have potentially been. If we had not lost our Queen, we would have had an extra 150. We would have been at 250, 116. We could have built 3 to 4 roaches and been at 0 minerals and 0 gas again. Now, IdrA has to kind of build an Overlord and be a little supply block. He's going to be putting a little bit of pressure back, but I'm not as interested in that. I'm more interested in this timing. Still churning out a good amount of drones, actually. And if we really wanted to be ultra studious, we would watch when drones were being made, when Zerglings were being made. IdrA, again, if you imagine 150 extra minerals, because we didn't build this Queen, we'd be having a lot more smooth timings come out. But I really thought that this was a marvelous timing at 5 minutes and 20 seconds to put guys in gas and get that Roach Warren. And we now see an evolution chamber beginning to pop up. And here comes another very IdrA-ish timing. Hey, look at that. Look, right when he's beginning to make roaches is right when the banelings are beginning to march forward. And see, here is what I call avoiding a dumb loss, right? This looks, to a casual observer, this looks like one of 2 things. This looks like, oh, IdrA barely got his roaches out in time. Right? That's what it looks like. They go, oh man, the Bane is going to come there, going to do so much damage. Oh, but he just barely got his roaches out in time. People actually chalk that up to luck. An inordinate percentage of the time. They're like, oh, it's just the hair away. I mean, if he just builds a Baneling nest 2 seconds earlier, he ends up getting it. So, I mean, it's kind of a little risky. It's actually not risky. There's a lot of people who do this every single time, have a 0% loss rate against that Bane. 0% loss rate against that Baneling bust. But it just looks so close every time. How could it be? Well, you have really good timing. Let's say you were trying to be IdrA and you did this build. And at this point in time, when all these Banelings and Zerglings were coming forward, you just didn't have enough drones. Or excuse me, you just didn't have enough roaches. He just runs up, he kills your drones, and then you lose. What do I call that? A dumb loss. And those are good. Those are good things to have happen. Dumb losses. All you need to do when you have a dumb loss is say, oh, I guess I adjust the timing a little bit. And then you have a barely defense. And you kind of go, oh, I didn't know that could feel so good. So, perfect. So, we see IdrA again with a barely defense, but this is actually an extremely solid thing. If we come look at the food count, look at how big a difference this is. IdrA getting supply blocked again. This has happened multiple times this game. This has been a little bit more intense because it is a Zerg versus Zerg, which is expected. After this, we're watching a Zerg versus Protoss, so don't get too concerned. Don't get too up in a huffy. So let's note here. Here comes some more timings. At this point in the game, what people generally like to say is that, well, there's been so much craziness with the defense and the queen dying and the overlords accidentally forgetting to be built. You can't use your timing anymore. Where does this flawed thought come from? It comes from people who use a food instruction list. You know, they will do something like 14 gas, 14 pool. Let's start making up numbers. 30 put guys back in gas and get the roach warren. Around 44, I build an evolution chamber. 52, I end up adding on another gas geyser. And then when all of a sudden they have to pull their drones back or they lose a queen, something messes with them, they go, well, my build's, it's messed up. I can no longer use my build. I have to wing it. No. We can use this little food instruction list, but we can also say things like, IdrA sticks on one gas and gets some roaches for defense, but right as he is getting his +1 attack upgrade, he begins getting a second geyser. Right as he gets his +1 attack upgrade, he gets a second geyser. I'm going to say that one more time. Right as he gets his +1 attack upgrade, he gets his second geyser. Everything begins to line up a little bit more. Our economy dictates what we're going to end up doing. All right, guys, here's an exercise. We have 300 minerals and not very much gas. What should we do? Build drones, because we can't really make that many roaches, but we can make drones with just minerals. Easy. Our economy dictated the possibilities. If we need to make some roaches, we can make some, not a lot, some. Cool. Or if, for instance, IdrA ends up throwing down a layer here, that's going to be also good. Yeah, look, here's the layer going down. What else are we going to be doing? We're going to be building drones. So there, they end up popping off. IdrA's going to be doing the vomitage. Very good. And look at how low the money is again. Look at how in unison the money drops down to 0 at the same time. We're starting to see some timings. All right, he's staying on one extractor till around when he gets a layer. But again, he's getting the second one right around when he ends up getting that +1 attack upgrade. And look at how low that money is. Look at how low. Oh, how low, how exciting. How freaking exciting. Still put on pressure with Zerglings. I don't give a damn. That's fine. When is he getting these second geysers? Okay. Yeah, despite being totally, quote-unquote, thrown off, look, IdrA, making some roaches because he had some gas. What should IdrA do with that leftover minerals? I don't know, make drones? Or if he's thinking of attacking, I don't know, make Zerglings. The way that IdrA is structuring his economy is dictating the way that he will end up playing. This is very, very cool. And what happens is that this looks almost inflexible. It looks like IdrA really is limited to making just drones and roaches. Correct. IdrA decided in advance that this is the way he was going to play. And he is now going to end up just playing in that fashion. So this is what I would call it getting really thrown off, right? This is a big bust attempt that's happening right now. This is a fairly big attack that is incoming, but you know what? IdrA ends up defending. Come back to this food count. Looks like a lot more Zerglings are coming in. Oh no. We see IdrA trying to rebuild. I want you still to note how well-timed this economy is. Look at the money from IdrA. They're both very low. There's not a lot of larvae left over. Okay, cool. Good. See a lot of Zerglings moving in for Zerg King, aka Sen. There's another queen coming out. Suddenly, we're not mining from this second extractor anymore. We got messed with. Are we ending up getting any sort of speed? Nah. It looks like we're going to be spending all our gas just making some more roaches. A little bit of a misstep right there by IdrA as he lets himself get surrounded a touch. Tries to do a little larva vomit. But you know what? Still kind of holding somewhat strong. Alright, but notice how in unison this money is low. So in a sense, this sort of timing, we can begin sort of stating behaviors that we only mine from more than one geyser when our economy is going really strong. We kind of stick to one geyser, and once we have a lot of drones, then we can begin getting a second geyser's worth of stuff. But when IdrA's feeling under pressure, no reason to mine from that second geyser. We're starting to discover timings and economy management that are not based on what our food is up here or what our timer says in this bottom left corner. Looks like IdrA's moving in. This looks like a little bit of a sort of all-in-ish, counter-attack-ish type style. But you know what? I think this is going to work out fairly well because roaches are really good. They're very, very good against the zerglings. A little bit tough to see. I'll end up highlighting all of IdrA's units just so you can get a little bit of a better, clearer sense. And we can still sort of see, look at how low the money is. And we see zerglings and drones being made in an intuitive way. When our gas gets a little high, sure, we'll pop out a couple of roaches. But our economy is dictating what units we're making. As our money gets real high, we can make zerglings and or drones. See some drones and zerglings getting snuck out. I would venture to say that in just a moment, we might see some roaches get made because this money's getting a little high. Or excuse me, this gas is getting a little high. This gas is getting a little bit high. Very, very subtle, but very clever. Our economy is dictating what units we end up building. No guys in this geyser. None. 0 guys in this geyser. And there is the good game. Very, very good stuff. Very cool stuff. I just want to reemphasize the point that IdrA's money stayed, like, across the board low. He didn't die with, like, 500 gas in the bank. He didn't die with 500 minerals in the bank. He was on the verge of dying, but at all points in time had kind of 0 of everything. And that is a real, real stroke of genius by IdrA. I love that by IdrA. Ooh, that makes me chilly and excited. IdrA. You really, really, really should begin focusing on those sorts of little subtle things. In terms of economy management, I want to just sort of restate all of everything that we just saw and learned in that game, and then use that again to look at another game, and to drink water. By the way, this was a gift, so I'd like to give a cheers to the fine folks who gifted me with it. I got it in Sweden. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm so cool using a beer mug to drink water from. Yes! So, what did we learn in that game? When to put guys into the gas geysers and when to take them out. Very, very cool stuff. We also learned that with Zerg, you have hard timings to match up with. Well, I had 150 that I could have made a roach warren, but I kind of got to be careful because that larva, those 4 larvae are going to pop off, and it's going to be a little bit tough to do, right? We also learned this idea of whatever resources we end up collecting dictate what we end up building. Cool, so we can selectively begin putting guys in and out of gas and just make roaches when we have gas and make drones when we don't. Very, very easy. You don't even have to really think, well, do I make 3 roaches, then 3 drones, then 4 roaches, and then 8 drones? No, you just say, do I have gas to make roaches? Yes. I'll make them. And let's go back to make some drones. Very simple. Very, very, very simple. No reason to overthink it. And last but not least, I know that there was one more thing to state. Yes. It's important to line up these timings, not so much with the food that's in this corner, or the timer that's right here on the screen. Yep, there we go. You can use these two, but if you get thrown off, it's okay to use other timings as well. Like right when you start that +1 attack upgrade, that's when you begin getting that second gas geyser. Good stuff, good stuff. Let's pop back into SC. Let's load up replay number 2 and begin drilling into what it feels like to be IdrA. I'm kind of happy that IdrA ended up winning that game because he's Gosu ×2. He is the man. Alright, cool. Good stuff, good stuff. Alright, e.g. IdrA spawning in the north position as the red Zerg player, and MNM Vadar spawning as the Protoss in the right position. Let's go ahead and go back to our e.g. IdrA cam. And, oh, wow, look at everyone who's obaing. Holy crap. But of course, I have no idea who M&M Vader is. I'm going to assume that it is a very, very, very cute member of the dark side. Whoops, it looks like we're still on the IdrA camp. Let's go ahead and break free of that. We do see that an Overlord is going to be popping out very soon. There's the Overlord popping out. Very good. We're going to see a drone popping out very soon. There it is. Very good. And as usual, we see the rally set around. Let's go ahead and speed things up just a little bit. Cool. Now, in a lot of other games, what I talk about is decision-making based on what we see. In a lot of other dailies, I'll be like, okay, he sees this, and he responds back home in this way. Instead, I just kind of want to watch these timings, and I want to note how really stunningly, awesomely, kick-assly these things are. Alright, so we see that there is a probe here in our base. This drone does not really have a specific rally point set. Okay, cool. Just throwing down the spawning pool somewhat early. No other gas geysers going down. Just throwing down the pool when we could afford it. Throwing down the pool when we could afford it. I could say throwing down the pool on 14, but let's just think of it a little bit more as the economy. Whenever we could afford it. We're going to be seeing an Overlord end up popping out in a moment. Should be this next little larvae. Come on, become an Overlord. It looks like he's just focusing on trying to block any sort of cannonage. So let's see how IdrA ends up dealing with this cannon rush. Kind of interesting thing to see IdrA do, that we're not getting queens in a lot of circumstances here. We're not really getting a very fast queen. In last game and this game, there was not a lot of queenage going on. Instead, favoring the zerglings, and that's great. That seems good. That seems really great. No guys being pulled off mining quite yet. There they end up getting pulled off. You can, as you're running out there, you can hit the C button. So that way these 3 guys end up returning those minerals. It is of urgency to send some guys out here, though. So don't try to get too overly calm, I guess. So we saw that that was not really a big deal. IdrA responding appropriately. So let's go back and look at this economy management. Okay. We could say a geyser at 21, couldn't we? We could say that. But with cannon rushes, you know what happens to most people when they get cannon rushed? They get thrown off. They get messed up. They have to pull guys off mining. They have to delay the queen. They have to sometimes forget overlords. Sometimes cannons do finish and drones are lost and all that good jazz. I don't want to call this a geyser on 21. I want to call this a geyser once the threat has been blocked. I want to call this a geyser when I have this many drones. It looks like 14 drones. That's what I want to call it. So IdrA ends up defending it appropriately well. Let's. I want everyone to continue to glance up here at this money that I know you can see oh so cleanly on my brand new Justin TV stream. Again, it's Justin TV / Day9 TV. Again, I'm not too hard to find. We're seeing, okay, right when guys get thrown back into the gas, that's when our Roach Warren goes down. Right when guys get tossed back into the gas, our Roach Warren goes down. It also looks like it could be described as the instant we have 150 minerals, we end up throwing a Roach Warren down. It also looks kind of like that. Let's see what the effect is on this. Let's see all the possible things that we could do wrong in this style. Okay, well, I love that we're having an Overlord pretty early, an Overlord on 22. As many of you Zerg users know, an Overlord on 22 generally feels pretty good. Because if you think about it, those 4 larvae that pop off, that is food 23, 4, 5, and 6, so you get maxed again. So 22 seems like a good time to get an Overlord. But I want to note that that's where a possible bump occurs. I think every Zerg player in his youth really messed up that timing with that Overlord, right? Really try to find a good time to get this one Overlord out. And as we're going to end up seeing, this Roach Warren is going to be done in just a moment. Let's see how it ends up panning out. Now, here comes a moment. See, we could, I'll back up just 1 second. We could end up getting a queen right here, right? We have 150 minerals, right? We have 150 minerals. Good economy management generally says keep your money as low as possible. And this is sometimes a trap that a lot of young players will fall into, is that, yeah, you want to keep your money as low as possible, but sometimes you end up keeping it overly low. A very good example is your gateway is about to finish. And then you build another gateway right before your first gateway finishes. So what happens? Your first gateway finishes, you're at 0 money, you can't do anything with it. You can't build a unit, you can't build a cybernetics core. It is a dead, useless gateway. Don't want to have that happen. So as we see, IdrA is going to opt not to make a queen here. He's going to opt not to make a queen. Because, as we can see, this larva is about to pop off. He'd be at 0 money. But IdrA is going to do something very interesting here. He's going to make another overlord. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that just sort of crazy? This looks a little kooky, a little nutty. So IdrA is going to begin continuing to do the larva adding. But we're seeing, interestingly, saving on up. Look at this amazing timing. And then look at that. Finishes, ba-boom. Churns out 4 roaches right away. 4 roaches right away. We also see now that that very early second overlord was kind of a key motivator for that. Because look, he would have been at 36 food, but now, see, right as those extra larvae pop off, he can begin to make drones and is not blocked. And I want you to note one last time, look at that money. Look at that money. Look at how low that money is. Now, everyone can steal things from IdrA. Everyone can look at IdrA and go, I'll do that. I will make that overlord on 22 and then make that second overlord at 24. So that way I can make a bunch of roaches right away. Anyone can steal and mimic. What I want to try to do for you is to make it a tool so you can think like IdrA and you can come up with these timings all on your own. And the biggest indicator is that you want regularly to hit periods where both of these numbers are very, very low together, A big danger that a lot of people have is that their money will be high for like a minute. And then it will plummet back down to 0 all of a sudden. And then their money will get really high again, and it'll plummet. And then their gas will get really high again, and they'll wait for a little while, and then it will plummet. It's okay to kind of have this feel to it, where they both kind of get up and they're kind of doing this. What I don't want is this, where one is sort of like dropping, and then, and then I spend my minerals, right? You kind of want to keep them both down low in unison. I want to keep them both down low. So the big things I want to note is, yes, you should be keeping your money low, but I want you to be a touch careful about rushing. Gosh, look at all that. About rushing to get things. Rushing to get things. Like whenever you want to build a building, I don't know, count to 5 and then build the building. Delay it just a little bit. There's a big virtue in patience. In fact, one of the big things that I see a lot of people do is that they will, in an effort to try to build things like the Roach Warren really quickly and to try to build, the Gas Geysers really quickly, they end up sacrificing worker production. But I want you to note that all around, IdrA is keeping everything very low. Hey, he made some roaches. Why? Because he had a little bit of gas. Seeing some pressure from IdrA happen right now. We're seeing a little bit of pressure. But you know what? Oh, look, 2 roaches. Why? Because he had a little bit of gas. And in the meantime, we're seeing a lot of stuff get produced. Seeing a little bit of a forgetfulness on that larva additage. Here's the Overlord coming back on out again. Be a little bit patient with yourself. Again, that's a great example. The player who, has his first gateway about to finish and then immediately builds a second gateway and then suddenly can't do anything with either of them. You want smoothness first and then speed second. You want things as fast as you can get them without having bumps. Without having bumps of inactivity. Speaking of bumps, IdrA's not vomiting his larva. Yep, there it goes. Very good. Hey, cool. You know what? He's still making roaches. This is actually a very simple opening. This is very simple. How would you state it? Well, you expand. You get 1 geyser and a kind of a fast roach warren, and you just keep making roaches as you can afford it. With the rest of your money, you make drones. Really simple. Make roaches off one geyser, rest of your money, make drones. Add on queens appropriately. Good. Right? Cool. Good. We've identified it. And then comes in all that subtlety, like getting that earlier second overlord. When we end up building that gas geyser, when we end up building that roach warren, most important thing is smoothness. Not having idle larvae sitting around for a long time. Not having supply capping occur. Not forgetting the larva vomiting. For the other races, it's not queuing up units. Not having like 3 probes queued. Always having a new thing be built right when it finishes. So you have no buildings that are idle doing nothing, and you have no things in the queue on those buildings, right? And as it's a really weird feeling. I'm actually going to tell you how weird this is going to feel. This is what you're going to do. You don't want to do it, but this is what's going to end up happening. You're a player who's feeling like he needs to get things faster, who needs to get more defense than is actually reasonable. So you'll do something like you'll get 3 barracks kind of quickly or something like that. You'll be getting 3 barracks kind of quickly. You'll be trying to get your factory kind of quickly as well. Oop, got to get that up. Got to get my engineering bay, got to get that sort of thing up. And then I tell you, you got to play smoothly first. It will suddenly feel like you're playing very slow. That is the way it will feel. Because it used to be the case, oh yeah, I get a 3rd barracks up really fast, and I get a factory up really fast. And if you scrutinize it closely, you see that those barracks are not really producing constantly. You see that that factory didn't do much. You see that you're low on workers. You see that you're getting supply capped. But once you make sure you're not getting supply capped, and you're constantly making workers, and you're constantly making things out of those barracks, or constantly getting upgrades when the upgrade structure finishes, you'll find that you can't get that 3rd barracks that early. You can't even get that factory for a while. So you suddenly are like, ugh, I'm on 2 barracks. Oh God, is that bad? I feel like I'm playing slow because I normally got my 3rd rack so fast. But now it's not fast. Is that bad? It's not bad. It's great. I swear to you, you're getting more units faster, and you have a better economy. I swear to you, that's what's actually happening. If you don't believe me, watch your before and after replays. If you're a Zerg player, and you are stumbling across this smoothness for the first time, what are you going to say? You're going to say, man, this second queen feels really slow. Man, this second geyser feels really behind. Is it bad that my layer is not done yet? Is it bad that it's not even started yet? Ugh. And you start to have all these deep fears, and I worry about you. And I want to let you know, smoothness takes precedence over everything. Smoothness. Smooth. Ooh. Ooh. You want it very smooth, very smooth, very smooth. And when you have smooth play, suddenly everything is all about timing. Look what's happening over here. I would call this winning. It looks like some winning is going on. Oh, we see a Twilight Council, so I'm sure that Vader's going to be getting Blink Stalkers and he's going to win, or he's going to like DT Rush and he's going to be caught with his pants down. But look at how smooth this play is. Oop, is the money getting high? Hey, no problem. We're going to have some larvae popping off. Going to spend that very nicely. Hey, you know what? Look, we're seeing that gas geyser get added in. That seems pretty good. Now, when did this gas geyser get thrown down? It's kind of hard to say because we're all the way up at 77 food. Look at, we're at the 8-minute mark. Wow, how do we determine this? We might just again say something like when I have sufficient drone count at my expo. And you see Huck do this on his stream a lot. You'll see him do this and just look, and you'll see him pop back over here, and you'll see him do this and sort of look. Okay. Yep, there's the Dark Shrine going down. I'm certain I know why this replay was uploaded. Probably some sort of goofy win. By the way, notice the Overlord placement. I mean, hell, look at that mini-map. Seriously, it looks like the mini-map looks like it has acne. It's such beautiful placement. Look at all that red. That's wonderful. Okay, we're seeing IdrA do a little bit of goody goodness with all this jazz. And now he's beginning to do some retreating. And we're seeing the Zergling speed pop down, some Zerglings pop out. I don't know how big of a fan I am of this. Because in my eyes, why try to focus on aggression once you've already killed his expansion? You're now on 2 base versus 1 base. I don't really feel the urge to go in for the kill. But again, we can state this sort of economy management as when you begin getting your layer, start getting a lot of Zerglings. And there it is, right? There it is. I'm just going to go to the everyone cam and see if there's an extra pylon somewhere hiding. Oh, it looks like there's the only place. That's fine. Let's go back to the IdrA cam. So there, indeed, we're seeing the money stay quite low. IdrA needs to vomit, but he doesn't have enough energy to. Oh, no. So we'll end up doing that in a moment. We see more drones getting made. We see a hatchery end up getting tossed down. There should be some sort of Dark Templarage going on. Where are the Dark Templar? Oh, he doesn't even have warp gates, dude! Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's so funny. I love that. Alright, okay, cool. As a general rule, anytime your layer is late as Zerg, just make an Overseer. As a general rule, anytime you have a late layer, just get an Overseer. It's especially the case if you're already having a lead. That's just like one of those ways that you can die really easily. But we're seeing, hey, you know what? Right when the layer finishes, that's when I'm going to begin making roaches again. That's when I'm going to begin making roaches. And we can even ask ourselves, wait a minute, when did these two gas geysers go down? When did these two gas geysers go down? Let's actually, I'm going to remove the overlay, conceal your eyes. Oh, let's end up popping this back. When did IdrA begin making these extra geysers? Because notice how, I want you to just keep your eyes up here. Bounce your eyes between these geysers and the money. Bounce your eyes between geysers and money and geysers and money. Look at them kind of universally getting lower. Okay, when this geyser seemed to... He started this geyser right when his layer was about halfway done. He started the second geyser right when the first geyser was done. Look at the money. Watch the money with me. Watch the money. See how they're both kind of staying low in unison? I mean, a little bit higher than it necessarily needs to be. But, you know, anytime your money's a little high, that's fine, because occasionally you'll have these points where all your larva pops off. I mean, look, 8 larvae and nothing but minerals. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's good. It's sub. It's very sub. So I think that there should be some kind of Dark Templarage going on at some point. Oh, hey, there he is. There's that little sneakeroo. But I also want you to note that 52 food is hard to come back against. 118 food. Very good. Very good. Going to the production. I'm very delighted to say I'm pretty sure IdrA's going to win both of these games. So that's cool. So, we got messed with, right? We got messed with. Drones got pulled off. Drones got pulled off. Look at how high our money is and how low our gas is. We got to put some guys back in the gas. All right, cool. Putting them back in. And uh-oh, our money's very high. Our money's very, very high. How are we going to deal with this? Well, it looks like we just make Hydras and Zerglings and get an evolution chamber, and yeah, you know what? Our money's doing fine. Our money's doing fine. I would say something like, if your money gets high and your gas is low, try a Hydraling composition. Seems like an easy statement to make, until things sort of hit an equilibrium. And then when they hit an equilibrium, then you can go back to roach production. I like this idea of whatever our money is. Actually, let me point this way. Whatever our money is up here dictates what units we end up building. And I think it's pretty clear to everyone that this is going to be pretty good for Zerg. The situation is going to be quite good. IdrA is doing some damage, I would call it. Getting double immortal, because what else is he going to do when he's up against the wall? But we want to come back here. We want to look at this production. Oh, this is so great. Expanding while attacking, a very good strategic thing to do. But expanding whenever he has enough money to up here. His money was high, so he went Ling, Hydra, expand. That's great. Looks like we have a little Zealot Immortal. And there's the good game. Very cool. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Very cool. Very cool stuff. I want you to keep your money low. I'm going to go ahead and try to take some questions from the chat. Again, there's this temporary issue with the chat because we're using QuakeNet, so there's no slow mode, so people are just flooding. That's fine. People will begin to commence le spam. But I would just like to state for the record, I am in QuakeNet. I'm not actually looking at the regular JTV chat, so I can't see it. I can't see it. Markio, actually, if you would be so interested in pasting me any questions, that would be fantastic. But right now, I'm not seeing any questions appear anywhere. I'm not seeing any questions appear. Wow. Oh man, poor Marky, poor Marky. Oh yeah, there's some questions coming up. There's some questions coming up. Cool, cool. Hells on 631 says, these subtle economic timings work for Zerg due to economic mechanics of the race. How does this work out for Protoss and Terran? A big thing to note, a lot of people like to think of Zerg as way different than the other two races. But really, I want you to consider the following. For Zerg, when your unit-producing structure finishes, you are that, like when your Roach-Warren finishes, now you are suddenly allowed to make roaches, and the larvae are what you use to pop that out. The analog for this is with Terran and Protoss. When you make a whole bunch of unit-producing structures, when they finish, now you need extra money to be able to build out of them. Excuse me. So, a big mistake that Terran and Protosses do is they get a few too many unit-producing structures too early, and then they can't produce out of all of them. You'll see a lot of Terran players, their money will get a little high, and right as they hit, like 500, they'll just make 3 barracks. And now, by the way, for the record, keeping your money low in general is almost always a good mindset to have. But I want you to be aware of overdoing that. So they'll build 3 barracks, and right when it finishes, they'll have 5 barracks total and 100 minerals. And they'll make 2 Marines. 3 barracks are sitting idle. And then they maybe get 150 more, and then they make 3 Marines. Then the old 2 Marines finish, now there's 2 barracks sitting idle. There's a lot of idleness that happens with unit-producing structures for those races. And that's quite key in terms of managing your economy. Again, I would be a little slower. Anytime you're thinking, wow, I can make 5 gateways, try to make 3 gateways. Or, oh my gosh, I think I can squeeze in a 3rd barracks. Try to see maybe if you actually couldn't by doing the usual check. Am I making workers? Am I making supply? Am I making units out of my existing structures? So that would be SCVs, depots, and making stuff. Or probes and pylons and making stuff. That sort of stuff. I closed my chat. Alright, chat's back open again. Let's see. Requizen says, would you suggest the same strategy of waiting on gas if you're playing Terran or Protoss? Let's say if you're on one base or something like that. I would say that, well, first of all, for anyone who doesn't know what Requizen is talking about, we saw that IdrA just sort of chilled on one gas and was kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to make roaches out of 1 geyser worth of gas, and I'm going to make drones with the rest of it. Wow, fantastissimo. That's great. However, how would this work for the other races? Well, I think it's still important to kind of have this idea of what you're going to be doing with that resource. So here's an easy example. Protosses. Actually, let me back up one more. A lot of times, I want you to use this logic as Terran or Protoss for 2 bases. I think that's where most of your learning is going to come from, as opposed to the analyzing the 1 base version. But a lot of players do what I call the 2 gas or 4 gas syndrome. They'll never consider taking an expansion and then just getting 1 geyser edit or something like that. Very rarely happens. So I want to describe the following mistake that a lot of Protosses make. So they will, on 1 base, get 2 geysers and do a 3 gateway sentry expand. In other words, they get 1 zealot and they get 3 warp gates, and then they make like 6 or 7 sentries. So when they expand, in other words, they're saying, I'm going to let this money here, I'm going to let this money dictate what units I build. I have lots of gas, I will make lots of sentries. I don't have a lot of minerals, that's fine, it ends up coming back down. When I get a lot of minerals, I make an expansion. Then here's the mistake that players do. They see that build, they see that style because Huck does it, because White Rod does it, because almost every Protoss does it. It's really, really normal. And then after they've done that, they have no idea what to do with this gas count up here. They have no idea what to do with it. So they just kind of spam sentries because they can, and then it gets in the way of their other upgrades, and then sometimes maybe they'll take 2 geysers at their expansion really, really quickly. It's kind of an addiction sometimes to just burn through your gas, with Protoss especially, because Protosses can have that illusion of, well, I'm always keeping my money low because I just make sentries. But I kind of want you to ask yourself if that's what you want. One player who really impressed me in this regard was TT1. In his PvZ style, and also Liquid Tyler does as well. In their PvZ style, they take an expansion, and then they don't get extra geysers at their expo. They stay on 2 gas and 2 base. Anytime they have a little bit of gas, they focus early on just sentries. And then after a while, it's zealots and stalkers. Because they're getting so much money and some gas that they can make stalkers, and then they still have money left over, so they make zealots. The economy times and dictates what units they end up making in that mix. So that is very, very cool. Hope that sufficiently answered that question. We're going to take one more question because we've currently been going for 59 minutes and 41 seconds. 59 minutes and 41 seconds. Let's see here. Yeah, my shirt does have a tear in it. That's correct, Mysticlean. This is my speed hole. This is a shirt that I've been known to do a lot of exercising in, so it is not the greatest quality. Yeah. Here's a great question from RQTV Drool, who I assume is from Rage Quit TV. And if not, I'll still say, hello, Rage Quit TV. Day 9. What is a good way to get a grasp of timing and unit composition? I'm slowly hitting Masters at the moment and really have trouble, especially with timings that didn't really matter in the Diamond League. Alright. I am going to compare this to having a crush on a lovely lady. Right? Where you're always sitting there going, what is he thinking? What is she thinking? Oh my gosh, what's going on in my crush's mind? And you're trying to analyze and think and all that stuff. But there comes a point where really the only thing you can know is what you think and how you feel. And that actually makes things quite a bit more easy. Just to sort of say, well, you know what? Can't think about what I don't know and run through the possibilities. That will help nothing. I will now just think about me. So for any of you who are trying to discover all these subtle little timings and all that sort of good stuff, I don't want you to watch your opponent. I don't want you to look at him and say something like, maybe he's vulnerable here to like 4 or 5 roaches. Maybe I should make some zerglings, because then what happens the next time you play, you make 4 or 5 roaches, and your new opponent did something completely different. You go, oh no, it's so stressful. What I want you to do is look at yourself and what you're doing at your base and say, is everything lining up cleanly? Is everything lining up smoothly? Is everything smooth? Ooh. Is it smooth, right? Is it smooth? And upon identifying that, you can begin to intuitively feel some timings. So, you know, what probably happens with IdrA when he's doing this build that we just saw in this last game, he's just adding on roaches from 1 geyser and adding on drones. Everything's timing itself well. And then over time, he realized, you know what? I really do need to make a second Overlord at 24. I need to make an Overlord at 22 and an Overlord at 24. Aha, now I have a new timing. I really need to get my second gas geyser around 70 food, even though it seems really late. That is an adequate time to end up doing that. These things will sort of fall out naturally, and you will slowly begin seeing things in your own play like, I can do my really smooth, nice, easy, clean, very well-timed build, but I don't quite have enough roaches to defend that push. Now, with that newfound knowledge, shall I get a spine crawler? Or should I get a second gas so I have more gas to get more roaches? These times will begin falling through, but they can only come if you can identify you and what your tendencies are and how you can smooth your own play out. Don't think that much about him. Don't think about your opponent, your crush. Think about just what you want, your feelings. That is going to wrap up the first ever Day 9 Daily streamed on justin.tv/Day9TV. I would also like to state that I'm going to be out of town in Germany starting on Sunday. Yeah, there will be additional content uploaded to day9tv.blip.tv. Check it out. And definitely tune into the IEM Championships at CeBIT, which I will be partaking in the casting of. That's it. You're all very pretty. Big thanks to fine folks at Justin TV for assisting me with the move. And of course to the wonderful admins and the Gun Run for making it possible as well. Peace out. Take care. See ya.